can be only one podcast, and may it be the Princess of the Universe. Hi, folks. I'm Matt.
And I'm Wes.
Hey.
Hey.
How's it going?
Outstanding. How about you?
Going pretty good. We did an episode a while back called Beanie Babies, on Beanie Babies.
We did.
You had shown me this. You said, hey, you got to watch this episode. It's from the show Dark Side of the 90's.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about it. Never heard about Dark Side of the 90's. And I watched the Beanie Baby episode, and we kind of talked about it on this podcast. Well, then I thought, well, you know what? Let's do a summary of all the other ones. Because I'm being honest, we're not going to do a podcast on each episode of Dark Side of the 90's because I'll be honest, the best episode is the Beanie Baby one, in my opinion.
Probably.
That's the one that held my interest more.
I think we're vested in that one a lot more. So
because we experienced it.
We were part of the inner workings from an outside perspective.
But yeah, so today we're just kind of going to go over the all the episodes of season 1 from Dark Side of the 90's. We both watched it and want to give our, I guess, overview thoughts on it. If you're a child of the 90's, I think you're going to love this show. There's a lot of things that are going to connect with you. The whole time I was watching this, I was thinking probably something more for Megan. Megan would enjoy this because a lot of this was right up her alley. Mm-hmm. Some of it, I should say. But for me, you know, I like I said, I enjoyed it. Just some things didn't hit me as well because where I guess when it comes to TV was involved, I was watching sports. I was huge. Well, yeah, we knew each other back then. But I was huge into baseball.
Right.
And we taught sports, so I didn't really watch the latest episode of 90210 and stuff like that. So
90210 was earlier.
Yeah, but that's one of the.
That was their
peak. I'll get to that topic, but
okay.
But we'll just go through this in the episode order here.
Sure.
First one was called Trash TV, Dirty and Deadly Talk. Basically, Jerry Springer.
Correct.
Everyone had seen episodes. Everyone been talking about the infomercial for his wildest and craziest uncensored moments. You knew someone who owned that.
I've seen that video. Yes,
we've all seen the video. I've seen that video probably more than I've seen minutes of his shows because I wasn't really watching his shows.
Were you pausing and rewinding at certain parts, maybe?
Oh, did I guess uncensored showed everything?
Yes.
Oh, I don't remember. I don't recall the VHS. The whole VHS. You pause it just right.
Sure.
Without the whole squiggly lines going through it.
Get that tracking work.
I'm sure. I'm sure. But they did Greatest Fights, Uncensored 2. I mean, VHS sales, he must have killed it in that.
Sure.
Because I knew someone who owned them all, and we'd watch them, because that was the highlights. You didn't want to watch, well, I didn't really care for the show, because it took a while for him to get to fighting and whatnot. But you knew Steve the bodyguard, you knew the whole thing, the most outrageous thing they go on. Any memories from that era, Jerry Springer and stuff?
Well, I can remember watching Jerry Springer at Cards and Coins, actually, in the morning.
Shut up. Did you?
Yeah, it would come on, I think, at like 11.
Oh, okay. See, you would work the morning, because I was in school, so I'd get out of college that afternoon.
Yeah, I would have it on if Wayne wasn't there, because we normally were playing ESPN all morning long.
Sports Center all day long. You had to watch it.
So, but yeah, I would watch that trash TV. I think it was just because I had moved out of Balkanville, and it reminded me so much of my roots.
Too close to home.
Yeah, I kind of felt like, it was like driving down the old neighborhood, but I could leave.
By the way, I wish, and I won't. I guess I won't do it, but it'd be funny. You sent me a picture.
Yes. I sure did.
Boy, you look different back then.
Yep.
That was
Dark Side of my 90s.
And that was in the 90s.
It was 1995.
Yes. Wow.
Yep. Wow.
That was quite a metamorphosis there you made there, my friend.
Yeah. I had outkicked my coverage. That's where it started with.
That was I think that was 1 year before I knew you. Did I know you 96, 97? Seems like later 90s.
I think you met me either late. I think you close around that time. Within a year.
Because I met you at a toy show.
Yep.
Or didn't I see you? And Stephanie at a toy show, I remember.
Yep.
And yeah, that was
with
the first time whenever. Yeah. Whoa.
Yep.
Dang, back in the day there. So that was around close to that time, I think. And then later on saw you again, of course, Cards and Coins.
Sure.
But yeah, okay. So Jerry Springer, you did watch a few episodes back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was, and that now that makes a point because VCRs were around, but I didn't really tape Jerry Springer. All I saw was the highlight reels and stuff like that. So that was the only memory I had. It was interesting. Interesting episode.
Yeah, I thought it was good how it chronicled how all of other networks were doing things and how they got on board with that, and then other people copied them.
Sally Raphael or whoever it was who had the person kill the other person.
It was not Sally Jesse Raphael. It was somebody else.
Whatever her name was, I can't remember.
It doesn't matter what her name was.
Exactly. Thank you. But when she had that instance and they decided to go full throttle where everyone else is backing away, I didn't realize all that had happened. I must have missed that news, or if so, I forgot it since then. But it was interesting.
Maybe you weren't reading the National Enquirer at that
Probably
time.
was not. Probably was not. The second episode was on the Viper Room, which I really did enjoy.
Yeah, very good.
That was really good. I remember, everyone remembers Rivers, the whole story about his death, OD, in front of Johnny Depp's club. It was big. But to be honest, before Rivers' death, I never knew anything about the Viper Room. I never knew about Johnny Depp's club. I just didn't keep up with the, like you said, the National Enquirer and stuff about it was the Hollywood. All that stuff came out to me after Rivers' death. You know, I was like, oh, Johnny Depp owns and Johnny Depp wasn't Johnny Depp as we know him today. He had done maybe just a few things, but he wasn't Benny and June and, Edward Scissorhands. It was early in his movie career, fresh off his TV career. Yeah. So I knew who he was, but he wasn't really that awe-inspiring to me. But hearing the whole history of the Viper Room and what it became and what it was and how it eventually closed down, that was interesting.
Yep, I agree.
That to me was a good one. I totally forgot that Joaquin Phoenix was River Phoenix's brother. Totally forgot that.
Yeah, that whole his 911 call was pretty troubling.
That was troublesome. Yeah. And that's when I was realizing...
I think any 911 call is troubling, but when you hear like someone that's like an actor...
Well, when you're in Balkanville, they're not always troubling. They're more hilarious at times.
Well, that is true. Yeah. Sometimes it's not a cry for help. It's just you want to talk to somebody else.
You just want to talk to somebody.
Because somebody threw the remote control at the wall and you're upset.
Exactly. That was your favorite remote control.
Right.
The things you did with that remote control when you were drunk in Balkanville.
Man, girls gone wild.
I'm telling you. But no, I thought the Viper Room was one of the better episodes. Yeah, and that was a good one. Now that I think about it, that was one that clicked with me, because I was like, oh, that's really interesting, and that's when I was thinking that my wife would probably like to watch these because that kind of stuff was right up her alley.
I think it kind of highlighted how public figures used to really value their private life in a different way, and I think society overall has lost the ability to pull back on everything.
No, I agree. And it's right before that time where things just kind of...
There's nothing wrong with doing something fun and not telling somebody about it.
Yeah.
And that was what the Viper Room was about.
Mm-hmm. And then all the wild, crazy theme parties, which if you know Johnny Depp now makes sense. But, the Alice in Wonderland theme party and something theme party, just random times too, not just Halloween. And it was neat to hear kind of the ins and outs.
Pussycat Dolls started there.
Yep, all that kind of stuff. So and I didn't know that either. I didn't know anything about I knew who they were, but I didn't know that was their history and background. So that to me, that was a good one. Next one's TV for Teens. This is the one that totally flew past me. I was not a 90210 or a...
I was.
You were?
Oh, yeah.
You were. See, Megan was. Megan was huge in a 90210. Yeah. She actually just rewatched them last year, I think. I
could snap my fingers to the guitar track with your wife if she was in here.
Oh, my goodness. Well, she was a big fan. She was a big... And all... Was there another... It's funny that...
Luke Perry's son is a wrestler for AEW.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
It looks a lot like him.
Does he come out to the 90210?
He does not, but that would be pretty awesome if he did.
I'm telling you, get the biggest pop from 30 and older. I'm telling you what, where everyone else is scratching their heads.
He's got some dreamy hair like his dad, except his is like wild.
That's interesting.
Captain
He chose
Caveman.
to be a wrestler.
Yeah.
Oh, good for him.
Yep.
They should have tied that in with Dark Side of the Ring then, had a crossover episode. And I don't think there's anything that dark about him yet.
Well,
maybe.
I don't know.
Oh.
I'm sure he's got a good personal life. I'll give him that.
Oh, allegedly. Okay, good.
Well, it's pretty evident.
Okay, that's good.
Those trunks are pretty forgiving.
Okay, well. It Is that the good thing about AEW wrestling?
I'm just saying.
Huh?
Something else.
I'm telling you what. But to me, I mean, the only thing that was interesting was Aaron Spelling. His history before then wasn't known as the teen drama guy. He was known as the old, adult drama, the Dallas, the Dynasty, the whatever. And this was something totally new. He totally Aaron Spelling.
Well, he gave his daughter
himself.
a job.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course.
That's a lot of the show was,
giving Tori Spelling something to do.
Yeah.
Which, did she stick out like a sore thumb in this series, or were you?
I think she grew into her character.
Okay.
They definitely highlighted.
Yeah, my wife agreed. She wasn't
people.
different. I mean, she wasn't like she didn't feel like someone who was shoehorned in. She just felt like she was just part of the cast. So
right, yeah, I thought she was a good character.
Okay, well now I'm thinking I should have brought my wife in.
Let Donna Martin graduate. So if 90210 fans will understand that. Yeah.
All right, yeah, I didn't.
Right.
See, and I explained this to you right before we went on the air, but back then it was all baseball. For me, it was baseball. For me, it was sports. College basketball, college football. There was someone's sport on. That's really all that I was watching on TV. Because that's all my dad was watching. Dad wasn't watching regular TV. Now he watches regular TV.
Well, I wasn't watching 90210 with my parents. I'm not that kind of weird guy.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm not going to look at hot chicks.
That was just kind of what was playing in our
days.
house. So when I woke up and ate back in the 90s, I ate before breakfast. I ate my cereal to Sports Center. And then we'd go to school. I mean, that was just
90210 came in at like 7 o'clock.
I know, but I wasn't watching TV by then. Or if
it
was the Braves game or something like that. But anyway, fourth episode is Beanie Babies, which is excellent. We've already talked about that one. Did a podcast on it. The fifth one was actually pretty good. Grunge, how grunge started.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything of the background of that story, of that label. That was
right, yeah, the underground.
Bands.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not know anything about them. The whole story about how Bleach was technically theirs for 10 cents.
Right.
What an amazing, and kept the company alive for years, and that's amazing to think about. Because I remember when Nirvana came out with that, people were going back and buying
Bleach,
their first album, Bleach, which was from a different company. So I didn't realize that. And then what was the other band?
Soundgarden.
Soundgarden.
Their first release, yeah.
Really kind of crazy, too, to think about how they kind of found all that. And, of course, the sad story with Nirvana is as it is, and everyone remembers where they were the day that Kurt Cobain died. And that Nirvana is still, I see teenagers wearing Nirvana T-shirts.
Yeah, I've grown to enjoy Nirvana way more than I did as a kid.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I do remember where I was at.
Yeah. I remember too, and I wasn't the biggest. I mean, I enjoyed their popular album. I listened to it like everyone listened to that album back in the day, but I wasn't just avid when he died. I was like, oh well, I didn't. To me, I remember where I was when it happened because it was such a big deal.
Sure.
But and
where were you?
I was in the back of a Suburban, and we were talking, and the radio announced it. The radio station announced that Kurt Cobain died, and some people were just really upset.
I was dropping Cass off. We had left school, and I was dropping him off in his driveway, and we were listening to, I think, 91.1.
Really?
Yeah, and it came on.
That may have been that was probably the radio station we were listening to.
It was probably like
because the person driving her parents' Suburban listened to 91.1.
Yep.
And that's I probably was because we were packed going somewhere or coming back from somewhere.
We had just left school.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And they announced it, and there was a few people who were really upset by that. And I said, oh, that's a shame because I heard his next album was going to be mind-blowing. That did not go over well to some people.
That joke is not aged well.
Yeah. No?
You should have pulled back on that.
So, yeah, okay. Well, anyway. Yeah, but I mean, I was okay. I mean, it didn't really upset me that much, but you're right. I've gone back. I got to listen to a lot of the stuff afterwards because I think the Unplugged.
Oh yeah, that's the one I was going to say
was kind of new at the time.
Well, I mean, that was like that was his last.
Yeah,
the last recording, and that's the one that I would say.
And getting to listen to that, I agree with you. That one was pretty good, and you got attached to it. It's like, oh, okay, and you go back and listen to other stuff and go, all right, there's more to this guy than just, the famous one song that I only heard on the radio beforehand. Even though, I'll be honest, a lot of that Unplugged you were listening to on the radio all the time then after he died.
Yeah.
But that he's still popular today with a lot of kids. I mean, Guns N' Roses is still alive and still kicking. And I don't see people wearing GNR shirts everywhere. But I still see kids wearing Nirvana shirts.
I think was, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's safe to say, if you're, I'm 44. I think if you're between 40 and 47, Kurt Cobain is kind of our John Lennon.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair to say. No, that's very fair to say because
He died tragically in a different tragic way.
Different way.
But definitely was like a
and then
generational type.
They had kind of talked about this, I believe, during the Viper Room episode that Courtney Love had gone in to the Viper Room, right, to kind of hide from the paparazzi and was breaking down.
A lot of bands played the Viper Room too,
yeah,
so she played there.
But was breaking down over Kurt Cobain's death and everything. I think they tied that back to a previous episode, which they did. They did some crossover in some of these episodes, if I recall, or maybe that's Dark Side of the Ring. They did some crossover, but either way, that was a good one. That was a good one to learn.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of that stuff I did not know. I didn't know about that other label. I didn't know anything about their history, and that was interesting to me. The one that I have zero interest in that my wife would have loved is Baywatch. My wife also watched all the Baywatches last year, too. She was on a 90's TV kick, and Baywatch was something she rewatched all the way through and was even upset when we couldn't find Baywatch Night streaming, even though I hear it sucked. But I was not a Baywatch. Like I said, just wasn't watching the TV. And I believe you watched some Baywatch in your time, maybe.
A little bit, but I was definitely not watching it for incredible storylines.
Oh, okay.
I just liked the color red.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah. And Knight Rider, right?
Sure.
Who doesn't love him? The Germans eat him up. Probably liked him because of his music, right?
He's got not good hair.
Oh, good hair. There you go. Yeah.
David Hasselhoff's got a good head of hair.
The Hoff. Yeah. Got some nice hair.
He's got a lot of... His hamburger meat's pretty strong, too.
No. It was interesting to watch, but I kind of wish Megan would have watched it with me because she would have been far more interested in the development of that story. It is funny how it got canceled and they bought it for like $1? And
right.
The rights, and then turned it into the biggest hit ever, but it was not being watched previous to that just because of was it a writer's strike or something?
Right, yeah.
And
that's the same thing that happened when 90210 was the writer's strike.
Oh,
so you may be twisting your stories.
I may be twisting my stories then. Okay. Well, some had happened where it went off the air, but because it was getting repeats when no one else was,
right,
it started gathering a fan club. Oh, so did 90210. No, you're right. How did Baywatch get viewers then? How did they get it back and redo it?
I can't exactly remember. I think they just found a different distributor or network.
Package it.
You'll have to let somebody that's listening to this
probably
understand
watch it, I guess.
Since we're the ones doing it, not this prepared.
I guess. But no, I'm just saying I just didn't care much about Baywatch because I never watched it back in the day.
I thought the story of it was more not just Baywatch. They focused on...
no, they focused on a lot of stuff.
You know, the effect it had on society and you know, plastic surgery and the party scene and all that. And, you know, a little bit on Tommy and Pam's relationship.
Right. A little bit on that and everything. And of course, the tape. That they were going to write her out of the show, but when the next episode did Best Record Ever, they said, nope, she's back in.
That was quite a tape.
That was, okay.
This microphone reminds me of something out of that tape, actually.
I don't want to know where this is going at all. So yeah.
Only God knows where it's been.
Is that when you took out the Jerry Springer Uncensored and it started gathering dust?
I took something else out.
Okay. The next one is called Tale of Two Cults. Tale of Two Cults. To be honest, I never heard about the... I think everyone's heard about David Koresh, the invasion. You saw that play out on TV for months and everything. You never really knew the full story of what was going on. At first you thought, man, the government's just invading this thing. And then you find out what kind of person David Koresh was. You're like, oh, okay, never mind. Because I remember there's a lot of confusion over what was really going on.
Well, there's a Netflix movie about it, too, that was really good.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
If anyone's interested in that story, it's not bad.
And it was interesting to hear who shot first and everything, because that was a big thing, too, on who shot first, I remember. And they're not so sure. It's still up in the air. And remember people making fun of Janet Reno looked like a dude. It's a guy.
Yeah, I want to say Will Ferrell dressed like Janet Reno.
Oh yeah. Every
SNL.
comedian was going after Janet Reno back then, and it was a big deal. Now the other cult, the alien ship cult people, never heard of them.
I remember hearing about when they killed themselves because they all had on the same Nikes.
Oh,
that
really?
was kind of the
Okay.
takeaway that
And all
everyone talked
died.
about.
But very interesting because they all got into ID and web development. They learned web development, and that's how they made tons of money back in the 90s, was helping develop web services, and had this big old nice place, living like the X-Men up in the mansion there. That was interesting to hear, and they were crazy. Just watching those videos they made about, yeah, they're all, eunuchs or something.
Yeah, it was
Looking
pretty.
the same, they were big Star Trek fans, and it was like, that's just kind of all weird. The whole thing, they were more creepy than the other ones. The other ones are just kind of crazy.
Well, we're
crazy
in
men.
the South, so we've run around enough.
I guess so. Like that.
Outlandish religious situations.
Yeah, but the alien cult I'd never heard of before. But it was, like I said, it was interesting to hear about them.
And the guy that they interviewed,
the survivor,
whose sister died.
Oh, him, yeah.
He was quite the character.
He was a little strange as well. Yes, that's right. Then you had the former member of that group that truly believes what they believe. He just didn't have the courage, or he couldn't release from his bodily figure enough to join them.
You can kind of tell there's a whole lot going on
But
there.
it's like,
but anyway,
that's kind of icky. So yeah, tell the two cults. Next one was hip hop, East versus West. Didn't care. I knew about it, but I did not care.
Thought it was really good.
Didn't care when it was happening. It was okay, interesting. How the beef may have started. Didn't know about that. I knew about the hip hop awards and Snoop Dogg calling people out and them kind of just pushing a rivalry. It was interesting, the two different, the Vibe magazine and Source trying to play it down, which probably was the correct move, and the Vibe just hyping it up, which is kind of weird because Vibe was more upscale at the time.
Yeah, it was owned by Quincy Jones.
Yeah. So there's a little bit interesting there, but again, I was not.
I think if you're more of a 90s, I don't know if you're 90s music driven enough, but anyone that was
not for hip hop, I wasn't.
Yeah,
I was not in the hip hop. I listened to the Chronic and whatnot back then. Maybe I can't remember. Maybe now it's probably later on. But hip hop wasn't my thing back then. I knew about it, but I didn't know the East versus West thing. I didn't know that much about it, and Tupac and Biggie and stuff like that. I know who they are now, but back then. did not know that much about it. It kind of fizzled out at the end, though. Just kind of overnight after Biggie died.
Well, I think it kind of, I think once two of the biggest guys are dead after it, it's like, I don't
think we're done
this
with it.
This is too real at this point now. This is not just, tabloid fodder.
Right. That's true. So there's that one there. Then there's Secrets of the Runway about supermodels. Again, supermodel world was a little evil, corrupt and everything.
Well, I think if you're...
But again, that doesn't... I don't have any... Yeah, I knew Cindy Crawford. I knew some of the supermodels, but that didn't appeal to me as a topic for the 90s. It didn't connect me as much. Even though, they all come with a little bit of information.
I thought it was good.
It was a little, it's a dirty underside world. Well, yeah, this is the dark side of the 90s. It's not going to be, butterflies and rainbows.
Yeah, I guess... I don't know if we're just jaded now by we understand, there is a flip side to everything, regardless of wherever your career takes you.
Yeah.
So when you hear that, you kind of know, well, it sucks. I mean, those guys were pigs, and they took advantage of girls, and
of all ages to get what they wanted, and that was the only way you could run the business back then. And it's awful.
And the person said, who sends their teenage daughter alone?
It's stupid.
So, it's kind of one of those things. But, Priscilla lived with Elvis when she was like 14, so this is not...
Well, that's not anything new.
Yeah.
That's right, new under the sun.
That was a different Heartbreak Hotel.
I'm telling you. So, yeah, but that one to me, like I said, some of these just didn't pull at me because I just didn't really care in the first place. One that I think was a big flop was the last one. Was Internet 1.0. Because of, I get the .com bubble and the whole Netscape explosion that they've spent the first 15 minutes on was interesting. But then they wanted to go to pets.com.
They drove that into the ground.
And I don't care. I don't remember pets.com. I don't remember the little puppet. I didn't care about them. And then are we supposed to feel bad for them because they mismanaged their money? That's exactly what they did.
Well,
they spent
I think
more
it was
money
more.
Than they could.
I thought that they highlighted how a lot of these ideas are the norm now. They were just 20 years
too fast, too early.
They didn't have the infrastructure.
And didn't have the infrastructure set, did not know how to pace themselves. It was all about getting yourself out there, and it was what's it called? Getting yourself known in the market, known in the reputation, get in the float, do the tour, pour more money into commercials. Just flood the market, get name recognition. That's what I'm trying to say. Get your name recognition more than making money. And in the meanwhile, certain places that did sustain their own and take their time with someone like Amazon, which I think they could have.
Well, they went a whole
kind of that. Well, they could have
Amazon
done. Amazon
was off books at the beginning, for God's sake.
They could have done a compare and contrast about how Amazon was building theirs, right? Because they did talk about how E-Trade survived and some of them survived. Okay, well, talk about how they survived. You just kept on Pets.com for the rest of the 30 minutes of the 45-minute show.
Yeah, there must have been a reason for that. There's somebody that was working that show.
Yeah, that was Pets.com maybe and had all that.
Yeah,
let's make this on Pets. And then it was, yeah, those were good times. I cried when we had to pack up our bags. And yeah, because you guys mismanaged your money completely and you didn't have any money. You didn't know what you were doing. But I would like to see something different than Pets.com to me.
I think you're looking at it from our age now. I mean, if you were working for that,
I was around in the 90s. I would have liked to seen what happened to Web Crawler, Ask Jeeves. There's a few other websites I would have loved to hear about too. But and then I want to hear about who was successful, who survived. It would have been nice to see who survived. Like, talk about Amazon, talk about E-Trade, talk about
Well, you can say who survived. I think that's the
point. Well, no, that's true, but how? What they did differently, I just felt like, and then of course, not that this is cheating. They went into the early 2000s. It is the finale. I get it.
Sure.
So late 90s, early 2000s. You got to do that to talk about the .com bubble because that's when it burst. Was about that time. But at the same time, and it was interesting to hear, like I said at the very beginning, how every kid's talking to some rich guy about a .com idea, and they're giving them the money without even testing out the theory. Because if it's online, it's got to make money. Because Netscape made bonkers. People went bonkers over Netscape. Yeah. But I did love where they talked about how they said, "Hey, Bill Gates is here, and he will not leave the booth. He is looking over that," and that's when they knew we're screwed. He's trying to figure out how they can do their own. And he built Internet Explorer, and that killed Netscape immediately.
Right.
Wiped them out. So that was interesting because I remember having a computer with Netscape. I remember Netscape, and so that was kind of interesting to hear their rise and fall and how they kind of started the .com bubble rush and everything. Because
it's not always who starts; it's who finishes.
Yeah, it's who finishes. Are we still talking about the Pam and Tommy VHS
I think we're
tape?
just going to tie all of this into the Big Bang at the end.
Of the series or the tape?
Right, yeah, the series.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so
the series.
Overall, then, we'll wrap it here.
We're going to unwrap it here. Oh, yeah, we're going to wrap it here. Sorry.
Okay. Dark Side of the 90s was okay. If you are younger than me,
it way more than
you loved it way more than me. I didn't think all the topics hit me, but because I was interested in different things.
Sure.
Like I said, when I sat there, I was thinking, this is a show for Megan. She would really. I didn't hate them all. I liked some of the episodes, like we talked about, but some
maybe
were,
you're just not dialed into your
TV.
Feminine side enough. Maybe that's why.
Maybe so. Maybe I should go back and watch 90210. Maybe that's what I should do. Are they making a season 2 of this, or are they done?
We shall see.
Oh, okay. I didn't even check to see. It just ended.
Yes, it did.
Back in September. So, You know, I mean, I'd like to see another one. I think there's plenty of other topics.
Vice is killing it with all these things.
They are. They're doing great. They're doing great with Dark Side of the Ring too, which is what we're gonna talk about next time.
Is that a teaser?
Yeah, teaser. There you go. All right, folks. We'll see you next time. Hey, before we start though, if you have seen Dark Side of the 90s, what did you think about it? What were your favorite episodes?
And is Matt wrong about his dislike for the hip hop episode?
Go ahead and do that. Yep. So let me know, and we'll see you next time on Princes of the Universe.